Hey, but you know what though? That's good because usually LA, it's like you don't get any rain.
Yeah, I mean, like we're out of the drought, but there's definitely like a ton of landslides. Like like we're not meant to have this much rain, and
Yeah,
like crops are flooded.
I 100% understand. 100% understood. All
Uh,
right, cool. We are live. So if you're ready, I'll do the intro and we'll jump into it.
yeah, let's go for it.
All right. See if I remember the intro. This will be funny.
I'm the queen of winging it, so
I was sitting there before you're logging on. I'm like, all right, what's the intro for this again? Well, and yeah, so we should be good though. All right, good. Cool. Welcome everybody to another live and amplified livecast. I'm your host, Tom Quiet, and we are back at it again with another amazing podcast. Today, we have a very special guest joining us all the way from, I could say sunny California now because you're finally kind of out of the wetness that California seemed to be getting there. We have Chloé Caroline. How's it going today?
it's going well. Yes, finally some sunshine. My soul is happy about it.
Nice, nice. So really excited to have you on. I feel like we've been trying to do this podcast for almost 3 months now, but it's like I leave for vacation, I injure myself, and then so it's a whole thing. But I'm glad we finally got you on, able to sit down and chat a little bit.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So for everybody kind of getting to meet you, you're born and raised in Southern California in I believe it's called the South Bay, right? Is that the?
Yeah. So it's like there's like a series of beach towns, about like 15 minutes south of LAX, the airport. So there's like Manhattan Beach, Redondo Beach for most of the beach, and I grew up in that bubble of beach towns.
Awesome. So what was it like growing up in Southern California? Because you're one of the rare breeds that grew up, stayed, and just like the full experience in Southern California there.
Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, I really did grow up in like a beach bubble. They call it the bubble. So I didn't really get, a ton of like that LA craziness that you hear about. I mean, it's definitely like a little beach community within the heart of Los Angeles. It's kind of a weird thing, but you still kind of have that, access to those places. What I really loved about it. So I felt, I'm lucky. It's a really safe area to grow up in. It's beautiful. You're by the water. But yeah, you can go into the city and you can go and experience these other really incredible places. And just the diversity that California has. So
Yeah,
yeah,
awesome.
I lived. So
Gotcha. So you kind of got lucky in the fact that you got the best of both worlds, living in Southern California, but not having to deal with the craziness that is LA. I'm sure the traffic was still pretty bad though.
yeah. I mean, whenever we did go into the city, there's terrible traffic, but yeah, I mean, I was pretty much like in the little bubble until I college, and then I went to college in Nashville.
Okay.
Belmont University, studied music business, and I lived there for a couple of years and really started my career there, and then finally got to experience LA for what it really is
Yeah.
when I back here, which was really cool too, because it was like a whole new experience.
Awesome. I definitely want to dive into that a little bit because usually a lot of people move out to Nashville and then they don't come back, but you did end up coming back. So once we kind of set everything up, I would like to dive into that a little bit. So who was when you were growing up, who was like the driving force behind your music, whether it was listening or jumping in and playing? Was it your mom, your dad? Who was kind of like that driving force?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely grew up in a very musical household. My father was in bands forever, in the music industry in general. So and just a music lover, like he's such a music lover, loves everything. And so that's definitely where I get that kind of melting pot sort of music sensibility. I mean, he would even bring me to like his band rehearsals as like a little kid. So yeah, I was definitely like immersed in all sorts of music as a kid. My grandpa had his own radio show. He ended up becoming a doctor, but like he was a singer, like incredible. So it definitely like runs in my family, no doubt about it. But so yeah, I would say a lot of that, but also like I've just always felt really called to it. I felt like I really understood lyrics that were like well beyond my
Mm,
years, even as like a 5-year-old
yeah,
kid. Um, and I've always been a big reader, just anything with like
mm,
writing and
yeah,
creativity, expression, and yeah. And so that's kind of where it all started. And I started playing piano when I was like 6 and started writing songs that way. And
mm,
singing was kind of just my outlet as a little girl. And then not to get too deep into it, but when
yeah,
I got really, really sick. And when I got really sick, music really became like my friend because that's all I had. I was
mm,
super, super isolated. And that's when
mm.
I feel like it really became a centerpiece in my life.
Nice. So, so you started writing, like just writing in general, and then you started playing the piano, and then that's kind of how the songwriting came into play. Is that kind of how it
Um,
happened, or?
so I mean, I started taking piano lessons when I was 6,
Hmm.
and kind of I would get bored with with learning how to play the actual songs, and I would, but I'd always end up also like making up my own melodies. And it started out like probably not even on piano. Like I would do it for fun just to like make my sister laugh. Like I would just be singing melodies. I'd make up melodies to fall asleep at nighttime. My dad is like the king of making up silly songs in general. And so I think I definitely picked that up from him a little bit. But yeah, and then just yes, I loved making up melodies and just like seeing led, but creative writing in general too
Yeah.
was just something I loved. Like I loved poetry, I loved making up
Yeah.
like yeah,
Yeah.
everything.
Gotcha. I guess that's ultimately what I was getting to, because the way you kind of originally worded it was, it was like the creative writing came
Mhm,
first, and then you started playing piano, which kind of inspired your creative writing to turn into music. Is that
mhm. It was I'd say it's a little bit of both
okay?
because it was singing and had this strong pull towards music even
Mm,
before I how to write
mm, yeah,
at all, literally how to read or write. Like I was drawn to music.
cool. And so then you mentioned that you got sick a few years later, and that's kind of when music was really drawn to you. What do you think it was about music that you kind of clung on to it?
I think it was just a form of expression, and
Hmm.
I understood by it, and it's something that I could always turn to when everything else seemed um, really difficult. Like it was
Mm,
just a escape to, and a way for me to kind of work through everything
mm,
that I was dealing with at the time at such a young and like pivotal age because it was
mm,
kind of like last year of childhood.
mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
I I had a similar situation when but I was like really young. I was like maybe 3 or 4,
Mm,
and I was going in and out of surgeries a lot, and so I clung. It wasn't music for me, it was movies and video games,
yeah.
which kind of explains some of my life choices moving forward. But, as a young person, when you're going through these traumatic experiences, you kind of tend to find that one thing to really cling on to. And the fact that yours was music because it was a way to kind of express yourself, that's really cool. So,
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, I talk about it a little bit in my song Memories, which is one of the tracks on my EP that's out. But
mm,
I were in 7th grade,
mm,
right as I was beginning to heal, I still was quite a bit away from
mhm,
that, but transfer schools because I looked so different.
yeah,
Um, and I had this amazing teacher who really taught us how to free write. And so we'd go in every day and basically write about whatever came to our mind. Didn't have to be grammatically correct or anything like that. And that really helped me to just like break through like
yeah,
any barriers and just like kind of like use it as an excuse to like basically journal every day.
mhm.
Um, and yeah, so I'm grateful for that as well.
Gotcha, gotcha. And so then you're going through, I guess it would technically be like junior high into high school, and you're healing from this I'll call it an illness just for kind of like a lack of better wording. Um, but you're still writing, you're still singing. Are you starting to perform at this point, or just performing not come until later?
Yeah, performing's not fully coming till later.
Okay.
Did I do choir? Yes, I did choir.
Mm.
I piano recitals and stuff like that. But yeah, not really. I was definitely a bedroom singer songwriter. I had a Facebook page in
Yeah.
eighth grade. That's when I really started sharing what I
Yes.
was doing in the world. Like my family outside of like my immediate family didn't really have any idea. I mean, they knew I loved to sing, but
Hmm.
really this like into it, you know, and I
Yeah.
started stuff and I'd go to school and my friends would be like, oh my gosh, I really relate to your songs. And that was the first time I was like, oh, other people get it. Like this isn't just for me.
Mm. Nice.
Yeah.
So it was kind of social media that help
Hmm.
bring you out of your box, so to speak. As yeah.
Oh, 100%. And that's what's so funny about it is I was like totally fearless. Like I look at some of the stuff that I used to post, like that's now private on my Facebook page. Like, dude, how did I post that? But like so boldly just like went for it. Yet like performing in front of other people at the time was like just like not a thing. And I was like such a great public speaker. I've always been
Hmm.
a good speaker. I had, started cheerleading at this point. So I was getting used to performing in a different
Hmm.
sense in front of people. And that definitely helped break the shell. But I was definitely afraid to mess up at that
Mm.
point, whatever that means.
Yeah.
And I wrote about it in some of those journals that I was talking about, which is it's just so funny because I do not have stage fright at all.
Nice. Nice. And so, not to put too, was pre 2015 when you released your first EP, right? So this is
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. My first EP, my freshman year of college.
Okay, gotcha. Just trying to build out the time, like, because you say Facebook, and that could be anywhere from now until 2006, I think. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah. So I got it in I think 2008.
yeah, awesome. And so what was kind of that? Obviously, you're kind of building yourself up out through high school. You're still doing the music, but you're starting to do cheerleading and all these things that are performing in a
Yeah,
different sense than like music.
sure.
But what was kind of that turning point during your during college that was like, okay, I want to record my music. I want to get it
Yeah.
out there. What was kind of that turning point for you?
Yeah, well, like I said, I kept going to school and my friends would ask where they could listen to my
Mhm.
songs. And I knew at that point that it was something that I wanted to do.
Mhm.
I knew that I would regret it if I didn't try. I'd always wonder, like, what if?
Yeah.
And at this point, like, I would do the talent show, like, with like by myself or with somebody else. Like, I would sing, but I wasn't like playing coffee shops or
Yeah.
anything. Yeah, again, it was still like strictly on like Facebook. And then I went into the studio. This is before I graduated high school. And I think I was like 16 or maybe just turning 17 and recorded my first demos
Mhm.
written by myself. And yeah, it was like three songs. And yeah, people seemed to respond to them really positively. And then at that point, I knew I was going to Belmont,
Mhm.
which a heavily music
Yeah.
based school. And yeah, I went to Belmont. I didn't know a soul in Nashville at all, nobody. And I just really wanted to be in a place at that time where I was surrounded by people
Mm.
that did and I could still go to college because for some reason it just like it was a goal of mine. Like I
Mm.
wanted college. I wanted to finish college.
Yeah.
Uh, and yeah, so I moved, and then it wasn't until probably a few months into me being in college that because I was around so many people, other people playing,
Yeah.
like I eventually just got more comfortable with doing it,
Mhm.
and just was like, okay, well, this is part of it now.
Mm. Was you brought up that going to school was always the goal, that you wanted to go to college and you wanted to go to school, but was it always going to Nashville, or was that just kind of, oh, hey, I'm a musician, let's do that? Yeah.
What knew because I knew what I wanted to do and what I wanted to study, which
Mm.
was music business and get that business degree. Like there were very
Mm.
few schools that offered a program like that, which
Yeah.
still allowed me to be in a place that was a music industry town, and it was pretty much between USC or Belmont, because even Berkeley is like not necessarily in an industry town, and I
Yeah.
knew wanted to be.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I just decided, like, this is seems like a good fit for me. And Nashville isn't California, and I knew how much I loved California, and
Hmm.
I knew that I probably would end up returning. So
Yeah.
I want to get away, and like I need to like find my sense of
Mm.
independence, try something new. And LA at that time too seemed like really big, even though I grew
Mm.
up there, like
Yeah.
seemed way too big. Where Belmont and Nashville seemed still like a smaller, safer
Yeah.
area to like nurture
Yeah.
me at time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're going through college in Nashville there. When did you end up returning back to Southern California?
Yeah, so I didn't return back to California until right before COVID,
Okay.
actually.
I
Oh,
was doing the math, and I was like, well, she could have returned from COVID, but maybe she returned just before. So yeah, go ahead.
yeah,
Sorry.
because I spent quite a few years in Nashville, and that's where, I mean, that's where I started my career. That's where I began to start
Hmm.
building and my fan base. Really, it started with being built in, like my freshman year of college, like through social
Mm.
media. Um, and that was when I ended up on Disney Channel and Radio Disney, and like things like actually started
Mm.
happening, all the while I'm still in college and
Yeah.
interning, have a little job, like
Yeah.
yeah.
Doing all the typical college stuff to get by, but you're doing all these cool things with music. So it's like that weird, almost triple life that you're leading. You've got your college where you're just going to school. You're Chloe going to school every Tuesday, whatever, and then you're doing your side job. But then, oh hey, I've got this other thing over here where my music's being played on Radio Disney, and I'm on Disney, and all this stuff. So
It was definitely weird. It was a weird college experience. I won't lie about it. Like at first, it was definitely difficult when I
mhm.
had friends that weren't, doing, they were just off in school partying and like
Yeah.
whatever. Like, and for me, it was completely the opposite. Like I knew what I wanted to do. My parents were very adamant, like about you're getting a job your first semester of college,
Mhm.
you're taking bus, and you're getting a job to help pay for everything, and you're also gonna like go and write after class,
Yeah.
and you're gonna go turn at a label, and yeah, you're gonna do it all,
Yeah.
and wasn't, yes, of course, like I had fun and made
Yeah.
friends, but it was different. It was
Yeah.
definitely a different sort of college experience.
Oh yeah. It's one of those things, especially when you're so far from home and going back, because in a lot of college experiences, kids will go 4 or 5 hours away from home. So if they want to go home for a weekend, they can. It's not that big of an inconvenience. Whereas if you have a 4 or 5 hour flight, plus
Mm,
tack on, like whatever else on the back, front and back of that, it's not always as easy as going home for a weekend. So it's like you're there for a reason. You know
mm,
what you want to do.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
take
And
advantage. But
I knew I want to drag it out longer than
mm,
it needed to be as far as school. Like I was like, I'm graduating in 4 years. Like
yeah.
that's it. Um, and I also went to a school that it's not your typical like school spirited football game, like
Mhm.
sort of thing. And so that was weird too, because I
Yeah.
wasn't cheerleader. I did cheerleading for 4 years in high school and was used to being like involved in everything. And
Mm.
my school was far less spirited that way.
Yeah.
So I felt like a weird disconnect at times. I ended up like joining a sorority, which ended up also not really being my thing, but I stuck
Yeah.
it, but I stuck out anyways.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. Oh,
yeah.
so you brought up being on the Radio Disney and all. How'd that kind of come up? How did you get involved with Disney?
Yeah. So I had, like I said, like right when I moved to Nashville, I was like, I need to start creating a fan base and
Mm.
getting
Yeah.
out. And there was an app called Pic Collage at the time, which people thought was just a collage making app, but it was a lot more like an Instagram.
Mhm.
And so there were a lot of kids who had the app all over the world whose parents just thought it was a collage making app,
Yeah.
and it was the app. So I had started posting on there, just because it was really cool. You could literally put like YouTube videos within
Yeah.
your collages, and so people could watch and listen to my music.
Nice.
Yeah, it was really cool. And so
Yeah.
all of a sudden, I was the only one really doing that. Like maybe me and I don't know, like one or two other people. And so it like blew up. It was like within a couple of months, I had like 300,000 followers on there. People
Yeah.
that were being like personalized sticker packs with my face on it, and it was crazy. And I was like, well, how do I translate this to Instagram? And slowly, those
Mm.
people started coming over. YouTube, same thing. But what I noticed most was that people loved that personal connection, and I was
Mm.
responding to everybody, and people loved that like somebody was actually paying attention to them and listening to their questions and their problems and
Mhm.
whatever
Yeah.
I qualified to at the time, at all. Like,
Right.
it felt really safe to, which was a really like special thing. And I started just doing that on Instagram as well. And at the time there wasn't a TikTok, but I was
Yeah.
just really reaching out to everybody, and slowly but surely started building this fan base. I was getting like online radio stations that were like adding my
Yeah.
music. And then through that was how Radio Disney had found out about my music.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
I didn't know what to expect. I got asked to like come visit, and I went, and I was like treated like royalty by them. Like
Nice.
really,
Yeah.
but up adding my song Indian Summer at the time, and adding my music video to Disney Channel, which
Mm.
just blew. And I was like their first independent artist that they got
Nice.
behind.
Nice. I was going to ask how the Disney Channel kind of folded into that, but that makes sense that it was the music videos. And so
Hmm.
I was like, wait, was she on like a Disney show that I just happened to miss or something? Because, yeah,
No, I wasn't. That would have been really fun though.
yeah. Because it's like I see those when I lived in Chicago, we'd always have these radio ads that would come on and say, hey, if you want to audition to be a next character on the Disney Channel show, come to wherever and audition. So we used to see that stuff pop up all the time. And yeah,
Oh, wow.
so
I mean, yeah, I remember like getting scouted for stuff in like Target, but
yeah, yeah, for sure. Oh, so you were in Nashville for 4 years, and then you were very vigilant about getting out in 4 years, which is great because sticking around past 4 years, it starts getting a little weird. So
right. Yeah. Well, so so I stayed a little bit after I graduated as
mm,
well, but I was like, I'm getting done with college in four
mm,
years.
mm,
I kind of got once I'd graduated and everything was going really well in my
mhm,
career. I'd built a really solid foundation, written hundreds of songs with people,
nice.
gotten a ton of experience, but I had an opportunity to basically audition and be in a Hallmark movie.
Oh
I'd
wow.
never acted in my life, and yeah, they had seen I think my music video on Disney Channel,
Mm.
and asked my manager, does she act? And he's like, yep, she does.
She's from LA. She acts. So
And I auditioned, and then they asked for some music, and I had sent them like my old EP because at this point I had already started making new
mm,
music. My sound had started to change for sure. And the project definitely needed more of a country sort of
mm,
sound. And that was my first EP, was definitely
mm,
more country. And so I never thought those songs would see the light of day. And
mm,
they did, ended up being in the movie. And I had such a great experience doing that I kind of was like, what am I doing? I'd had like syncs, I'd had my songs in movies before.
mhm,
But it was like, okay, well, there's this whole other creative world. I feel very limited right now in Nashville. Why don't I try to like do both? But like I've
mm,
never given LA like a chance, like as an adult artist. And I'm trying to break away from necessarily being put in a box genre wise.
mm, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Go and try something new here. And it was terrifying because like I said, I worked really hard and nothing was going wrong. Like it wasn't like anything was going wrong being in Nashville, which
Mhm,
was barrier. So it was like, well, what if this all goes away?
Hmm. Yeah.
you know? And yeah, so I just decided to give it a shot, obviously not anticipating COVID. It was
Yeah. Yeah, for sure, for sure. Uh, you brought up kind of the evolution of your musical sound. You kind of just touched on that, and that's always something really interesting, especially with musicians that have a nice track record like you do, where you've been releasing music since 2015. And
yeah.
you'd mentioned that you started off like country. Was that kind of more because you knew you were in Nashville and you were going to be in Nashville, so you kind of wanted to blend in? Because I feel like 2015, Nashville still very much had the country music. No, I don't want to say stigma, but it was like still very much a country music scene.
hmm
Do you think you were kind of leaning into it a little bit more, or was country something that you legitimately wanted to get into?
So basically what I kind of felt was happening was people associated, oh, she's blonde, she plays guitar, she must be country, she lives in Nashville. And I had never categorized myself as country when
Mm,
I California. I love to write storytelling
mm,
songs. I have kind of this thing in my voice.
mm,
Accent
mm.
that kind of could be more of a folky vibe at
Yeah,
times. Don't know where that came from.
yeah,
I grew up listening to everything. I mean, and I of course I loved Dolly Parton, I loved Shania
mm,
Twain, loved the Dixie Chicks, Taylor Swift. But I also loved a lot of other artists that weren't necessarily country. I mean, Avril, Michelle Branch,
yeah,
Stevie, I mean, Gavin DeGraw, like all
yeah.
these other, a lot of people do. Um, but I moved to Nashville, and I kind of was like, well, if people are associating me with country for
Yeah,
whatever reason, I'm not gonna shut it down.
yeah.
I'll like, open up to it here. But maybe it's like California country, because
Mm,
I felt like just this country label worked, and
yeah,
not about to like fake an accent or anything, or
yeah.
like
I got you.
um but I also was very much like a novice to music in general. Like I had just done those demos, which weren't country. But this project, this first EP I did, like I didn't really know anything about like
Mm,
production or how to say in that or anything. And so I just like, let the producer run wild, and he
yeah.
did a great job. But yeah, all of a sudden, like it's definitely more of a country pop
Mm,
project. But I was still like steering it, like I said, as like California country, where there were a
mm,
lot of artists that were in like this country space, but
yeah,
they California, and this was back in like the 70s, and you had this
yeah.
like other SoCal sound to it. And I kind of was like, let me bring that vibe to country, I
Mm,
guess. And it was doing well. Like I was
yeah.
definitely, it was being positively received. It was a lot of people that were like, I don't like country, but I like you. Like those were a lot of the comments. And that was cool, because it was like, this is fresh. But I
Mm,
also felt like, again, very limited, especially as I kept writing, kept listening to music, kept trying to figure out who I was, what my music was. And I was like, I'm not necessarily country. Like,
mm,
there's a lot of other things that I like. There's other things that I want to put in my music.
yeah.
If I can't put those things in my music because of a genre,
Yeah.
then that's an issue for me.
Ye Yeah.
The time I was hearing artists like Shawn Mendes that were coming up, in Ed Sheeran, um, prior to Harry Styles now,
Mm,
that had this like mixture of organic instruments
mm,
with pop melodies and
yeah,
story. And I was like, um, these dudes are doing this.
yeah,
Why are they considered country? I don't have an accent. I'm
yeah,
not. I don't. Not that you have to play country, but I just was like, I want to. I'm trying all these different sorts of production things,
mhm,
thing the old and the new and the real and
yeah,
synthetic. Like this is my own thing here, and so I kind of was like, okay, people can call it whatever they want, but this is how I'm leaning into my
yeah,
sound.
yeah,
And so I doing that, and yeah, started releasing stuff, like my song Gypsy Daughter,
mhm,
which 18, and that was really I think that was the first track after kind of like that country pop thing that I wasn't
mhm,
as necessarily country.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just kind of grew from there, I
Yeah.
suppose.
That's really cool because what I picked up from all that was when you before you moved to Nashville, you were being authentically you. Whatever it was, you were just doing your thing. And then you kind of get into this environment that you definitely wanted to be in Nashville because you wanted to be in an industry town, which I 100% get because you pick up things, you learn things, but they had to put you in a box. And so, yeah, like you said, you're a white blonde girl that plays the guitar, and you just look like a country singer. And yeah, you kind of have a little twang in there when you say, so you're country. Doesn't
Right.
matter, you're country.
Yeah.
And so then you tried to make it your own by saying, well, I'm California country,
Yeah.
but then I think the best thing for you, just kind of watching how things have unfolded, like just from obviously I wasn't, we didn't know each other in 2018, like 2018, 2019 after you had left and all that stuff. But just kind of seeing what I've seen through the last few months and then just kind of going back through your art or going back through your music and stuff. Once
Mhm.
you leave California, you're kind of leaning back into your old self where it's like, call me whatever you want,
Yeah.
but I'm doing me. And
Yeah.
I think that's where you've kind of really started to break free and you're really doing something now. So not that you
Thank
weren't doing something before, but you're like
you.
really hit your stride.
Thank you so much. That means so much. I mean, yeah, I've put a lot of intention behind the whole thing,
Mm,
and really and just not trying to, yeah, like close myself off, but still be intentional,
yeah.
like be have a direction. And the beautiful thing about pop music is that it is really broad, but also, yeah, like who's to say you can't have like
Yeah.
super like catchy melodies and have meaningful lyrics. Like I think that's the thing too, is like, people assume, oh, pop music, it can't have it, it doesn't have meaningful lyrics if
Mm,
they're not. And for me, like, no, it's like the complete opposite. Yes, you
yeah.
can have like a song that's just like a vibe and it's, repetitive, but
Mhm,
like my goal is to always like have a lyric that like makes you think, and even if it's
mm,
simple, like, and
yeah.
that's where influence from, storytellers like Carole King and Stevie Nicks,
Mhm,
because sometimes they had really, really simple lyrics that
yeah.
were profound,
Yeah.
profound.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I've recently started shifting my mindset as far as the type of music that I'm into. Because like especially early on during the pandemic when live and amplified kind of took a shift as to what we were gonna be, it was very much musicians. Like I would talk to my buddy and it was very much musicians that were like musicians and just they were doing very artistic things, like they were very intentional, they were very, it didn't matter what it made me feel, it was
Mhm.
just musicians that are doing something, they're very intentional with their music, they're very taking chances, they're being artists and creatives and just almost being music snobs to a degree, if that makes any kind of sense.
Sure.
And then like just in the last 6 months I was like, wait a minute. Half these musicians that we started working with, we don't talk to anymore because they come in, they're like, oh, I'm a musician. They
Mm.
do that kind of thing. And we don't talk to them anymore. And I never really liked their music. But now it's like I'm kind of in this spot where it's like I'm just listening to music because it makes me feel good and it puts me in the right place. If I'm sad, if like a couple weeks ago I was like super depressed, like when I right around the time that I injured my knee, and I just went down a deep dark rabbit hole of just listening to very sad songs, and it was like
Mm.
depressing, but it was what I needed, and it was like it wasn't the best music in the world, like it was. It is what it is, but it just kind of land or led itself to the way I was feeling,
Sure.
and so, like, for the last 6 months or so, I've just been doing that, and it's been wow, it's been insane, just, like, the different shift that I've had because it's more about me relating to the music and not necessarily, "Oh, I'm a musician," so
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's beautiful. That's what it's all about. That's what it's there for. I always say, like, if I didn't have music or the ability to like express myself through
mm,
music, it'd be insane. Like, I literally don't know how people get through
Yeah.
hard situations without writing songs. Like I don't get it. I'm like,
Yeah.
I would insane. I'd be a
Yeah.
crazy person.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. So this might be the longest lead up to a new release. Like usually, I'm sitting here, I'm like, dang, we're already 40 minutes in, and we haven't
Uh,
even talked about the album yet. So you made your way back to LA, and you continued releasing music leading up to the Awakening, which is an EP that you released today, right? Yeah,
uh, Monday. I
Monday.
ran
Okay.
Monday.
Gotcha. Oh, so the Awakening, what was kind of the thought process going into this album?
Yeah. So it was a really interesting experience. Like I said, like I had moved back to LA
Mhm.
from that was kind of the start of a spiritual awakening, which, takes letting go and usually a big risk. And that was
Yeah.
kind of fun. And this calling to change up my situation here
Mhm.
and follow my heart. And it was leading me home. And then I had been in a 5-year relationship.
Yeah.
Um, and it was very up and down, very, yeah. And I ended up taking the leap of faith, ending that relationship, which was to this day the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life.
Mhm.
And but I knew that like I needed to be alone. I
Mhm.
knew that I had to learn how to like heal and love myself again and focus on me and what brought me joy. And then COVID happened, and so I really had that time to like
Mm.
dig in deep. And
Yeah.
so a lot of these songs, came from that journey that happens when you have, when you look inward and when you start to like have these revelations as you're learning how to surrender and how to
Mhm.
let go, realizing that like a lot of, 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 of our life is out of control, out of our hands and out of our
Mhm.
control. However, what's in our control is how we align with certain energy.
Mm. Yeah.
Started noticing like what I could manifest, and it was crazy. It was like blowing my mind. And there were times when I literally again thought I was crazy. Like I was like,
Mm.
"There's no way this just happened." Like
Yeah.
and it was just like it was like magic. And then as I began healing myself, I eventually ended up meeting like the love of my life through this whole
Mm.
experience. Started pouring the love that I would be pouring into somebody else into me, and
Mhm.
that attracted like my dream person.
Yeah.
And a lot of music, came from that experience as well. But yeah, I really wrote it as kind of this EP that was a play by play of all of those emotions that you go
Mm.
through as you yeah learn to be alone, as you learn to heal, and as you learn to take risks and follow your dreams and whatever those dreams are. It's really easy, or it's a lot easier to just like be like, this is too scary, or this might fail, or this might not work out, or this relationship's really comfortable.
Mhm.
What if there isn't better? I've already been with this person for X amount of time. Like, oh, do I really want to start over? And
Mhm.
then, while that you're settling, like I just kind of had this moment where I was like, I don't want to wake up when I'm 60 and wonder, like, what if there was somebody better aligned with me or whatever? What if I didn't, have a 9 to 5 and hated
Mm.
my life? Like, for me personally. So yeah, I wrote 2 EPs over this whole process.
Mm.
And I got an opportunity to work with 2 incredible producers throughout the whole thing. And so yeah, I have 2 EPs that are coming.
Nice. I just realized I'm sitting here scrolling through your Spotify here, and I just realized how you kind of released the EP where you
Yeah.
did like a slow leak or a slow burn almost, uh,
Mhm.
releasing them it as singles, but just kind of tacking it on as to like, so you release a single, release a second single, and then you release a 3-song EP, 4-song, and then
Yeah.
lead it up to the 6-song. I was sitting here, I was like, for whatever reason, I didn't put 2 and 2 together before I jumped on here that in theory, if you just take it at face value on Spotify, you've released 4 EPs this year already.
Yeah, it was the first time I ever decided to do a waterfall release.
Yeah.
And I had released, Gemini in the summertime, and then I released Saving Space in the fall.
Mhm.
And then I was kind of, I don't know, I was like, you know what, I was kind of, well, I had a time limit for when I could release that first EP. That's a
Mm.
whole other but I knew that I had like a time limit. And I was also like, well, I love these songs,
Yeah.
which if I had to choose one single, like that's really difficult. I don't know. So why don't I just try them all? And that was kind of
Mhm.
my mom. I was like, all right, like, well, I have nothing to lose here. Like, let's put them out like one at a time and
Mhm.
just see how they respond and tell the story that way as well.
Mhm.
Um, it was really cool. It's been hectic.
Yeah.
I'm an artist, so I'm doing everything myself. And so you're constantly like playing catch up
Yeah.
on but it's been cool, and we got to tell the stories through visuals too. And I did like mini music videos for
Mm.
everything. Gemini has a full music video, but all the rest, yeah, on YouTube you can see they're like mini music videos for each track.
Nice. So I guess I have to ask the next logical question. Are you a Gemini? Is that where that?
So I'm not a Gemini, I'm an
Okay.
Aquarius.
Okay.
My sign is Gemini.
Okay.
So like we all have like multiple signs, three
Mm.
different signs, your sun, moon, and rising, for people who don't know that. And so yeah, my rising is a Gemini. And I tend to attract Geminis, also Aquarius,
Yeah.
always attract Geminis, or like Sagittarius, which is
Mm.
funny because that's now. But prior to this, always Geminis, even girlfriends, oftentimes Geminis. So
Mhm.
it was a trend for sure.
I'm a Gemini, so that's why I asked. So it was just like
Oh.
it's quite funny. I'm sitting there, pretty much since I started doing the podcast, like on Zoom and whatnot. I've started noticing how many musicians are kind of into their star sign or their, like all that stuff. There's one situation where I was interviewing a musician and she had a poster of all the star signs and like what they meant, and just kind of had this poster that broke it down. And so I think I just threw out a random question about the star, or like a star sign. And she was like, "How'd you know I was into that?" I was like, "Look at the poster behind you." And she's like, "Oh, I forgot that was there."
Yeah, I got really into it, like, because I noticed trends and like the people I was attracting, and then it became like, me noticing
Mm.
personality traits that I was attracted to, which it all kind of blended into this healing journey again, because you
Mhm.
start to understand yourself better and why you're attracting certain people and vice versa. And yeah, that was kind of the first, kind of like joking about
Mm.
like, oh, I always attract Geminis, was the kind of the first little intro into this spiritual
Yeah.
awakening, spiritual world. And I'm a really intuitive person. I have this weird gift where I can guess people's zodiac signs.
Nice. That's awesome.
It-
Uh, so The Awakening Volume 1, you'd mentioned that you have a second one coming out. Do you have the date for that, or is it going to be more of a waterfall release again, or?
yeah, we're still kind of figuring that out. It probably will, because I did like that process. I don't know if they'll do like necessarily every 2 weeks
Mm.
again, but 3 weeks, like that was really, really close, but
Mhm.
probably every 4 weeks, maybe.
Yeah.
We'll see. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I want to continue to be like on the roll with this stuff, and probably early summer, I would say.
Awesome. So that's really cool. And is it, how'd you kind of go through the song selection did you know when you first started working on volume one, did you know you wanted it to be a two-part deal, or was it like you started working on volume one and it was like, oh wait, there's a lot more to this?
So it's a really weird story, but my second EP technically was done way before like my first EP.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, I had an opportunity, like once I over COVID gone back and forth to Nashville to work with my producer there. And when I was doing that, I'd found out about this opportunity to
Mhm.
work with a Canadian producer. And I'm half Canadian. They have a really cool thing where you can basically apply for grants through the Canadian government.
Mm.
And get a project like partially funded if
Mhm.
you, there's a lot of things that go into it, but I won't bore anybody, but there's a time limit on that. And so I basically was like, well, I don't want to lose this opportunity. So I ended up working, I found a producer. Literally, I Googled Canadian producers and it ended up being this guy named Brian West, who did like Nelly Furtado, who's like one of my
Mm. Yeah.
heroes, Sia, Andy Grammer, Will Nation, and started, writing and working with him last, like literally a year ago at this
Mhm.
time. And yeah, it was kind of a lot because I didn't know. I was like, I love this other project that I just
Yeah.
done, and I was ready to release that one, and I was so excited, and I was like, how am I going to like beat that?
Yeah.
But it also was a great opportunity because I had this base of this sound that I had started creating that I could reference. And also had this other beautiful part of my journey now happening, which was, this relationship
Mhm.
with like my twin flame. And like, now I can write about that and then kind of go back to this prequel, which is a little bit of what the next EP is. But I was able to take 2 songs off of that project, which was Gemini and Saving Space. So those first 2 that I ended up releasing are actually from the second EP that I pulled. So
Yeah.
it's kind of, they're all mixed together, but it all works out really, really well, I think, to tell the story. And I'm really excited for people to hear volume 2 as well.
Nice. Okay, so it is, even though it was written before volume 1, it is coming out as The Awakening volume 2.
Yeah.
Okay. That's cool. Because when the way you were kind of wording it is like, okay, maybe we'll get volume 2 next year. It's like just, when you said it was like, oh, the second one was kind of done before the first one, so
No, I kind of just meant like it's how they're being released is kind of
ah,
how you would think they
hmm,
were, because I had a time limit that I had to hit, so I had
yeah.
to change up the reverse
Yeah.
or the I mean.
Yeah, I gotcha. Completely understood. So now that you're in the process of working on volume 2, but you're still out here trying to promote volume 1 because it's just like now it's fully out there. What's kind of running through your mind as you're like exiting one project, entering another project, but it's still one project
Yeah.
and
It's cool. It's exciting. I definitely want to, I want to sit and I want to like waft in this beautiful energy that is
yeah.
volume 1, and I love it. I'm really proud of it. Part of why I think it's cool how I'm ending up releasing it is because kind of the whole theme of
Mm,
both of them is to surrender to the present moment. At the end of the day, that we're always exactly where we're supposed to be, and when we sit in that energy, like these incredible things happen.
mhm.
Um, and so I was like, why not start with the present moment? And a lot of the stuff that I'm talking about within that first volume is more recent. So
Mhm.
I think it's cool that to start there a little bit more.
Nice.
But yeah, I'm really excited. There's a lot of songs on volume 2 that I've had for a while that
Mm,
like I'm really, really excited to share. So that's also exciting. So it's
nice.
finally I've been holding on to those ones even longer.
Nice. Now, all these songs that are being released, the ones that are already released in volume 1 and the ones that will be released in volume 2, are these songs that have been played before? Like, have you played them in front of people before and road tested them and all that stuff? Or are these all brand new songs nobody's heard?
So pretty much I've played most of volume 2 more than I have volume 1,
Hmm. Yeah,
because
that makes sense. Yeah.
um longer, or for longer. So yeah, I've just now, kind of had a couple shows where I started to play Twin Flames
Hmm.
and Afraid of the Dark and stuff like that. I still haven't gotten to play Underneath the Moon live yet, so I'm really excited about that. But yeah, some of those songs from volume 2 have been played at shows, and
Yeah.
that's kind of cool too, is like knowing which ones have already been reacting with
Hmm.
people. That project is not out yet.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And it's always cool to kind of have those songs that have gone through the road test and you've given them the opportunity to kind of mature because yeah, as much as I love bands introducing new songs that I've never heard before, like I think there's a really cool fine line to as a performing artist to have those songs that you're not necessarily going to hear right away at shows, but
Yeah.
also have songs that you're only going to ever hear them at shows. Like, we're not going to record this song because
Right.
obviously the goal is get people to buy the album, but also get you to come to live shows.
Mhm.
And if you have those songs that, yeah, we're probably never going to record it. It's just a song we play at live shows, you know?
Yeah, I mean it is cool because there's people that have like repeat come to my shows and they're like, oh, like when are you releasing? Like I have a song called Another Best Friend that like
Yeah.
everybody loves. Every time I play that song, I've got like dudes that come up to me and like cry. Um and it's like that song where it's like people know it, but like they don't have it yet. So it's cool that at some point they will, but it's
Yeah.
still kind of like a secret song.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's really cool. Uh, so where are you kind of at show wise right now? Are you actively playing live shows, or is it kind of pulling back, or where are you kind of at right now?
Yeah, it's been a little bit of an interesting time just because I
Mm,
had the release show back to
mm,
back. A lot of the folks has been there. I played a show when Twin Flames released, which was really cool. That was like a sold out show in LA. And then I'm hoping to do one coming up here in the spring or early summer, and hopefully playing the Troubadour in the summer, which would be really fun. But hopefully
Nice.
more to do. I'm playing a Canadian Music Week, which is my first Canadian festival and my first
Nice.
Canadian show in Toronto in June. So that'll be
Nice.
exciting.
That's awesome. I was really hoping to get out to um Canada this year. I went once as a
Yeah,
kid. We were in Detroit and my dad was like, "Oh, let's go to Canada. It's just say we went to Canada."
yeah.
And yeah, but that's my extent as far as going to Canada. Was going to Windsor, and I talked to a few musicians that are like based out of Toronto, and they're like, "So you basically went to Detroit North? Is that what you?" Yeah. So,
That's
um, but so yeah, that's really cool. And then obviously as things kind of progress, you announced any? You haven't announced any dates for Volume 2 yet, right? It's all yeah. Okay. And so as for anybody that wants to kind of um stay on top of that and get the release dates, where can they find you on social media, all that fun stuff?
Yeah, so I'm on all platforms. On Instagram, it's just at Chloe Caroline. It's chloecaroline.com for those of you that use websites. Twitter at I'm Chloe Caroline. TikTok at I'm Chloe Caroline. YouTube, Chloe Caroline Music.
Mhm.
Facebook, Caroline Music. And then I have
Awesome.
her in all my bios on my socials, and it's actually me. It's not a robot.
Yeah.
And so if you text me, I can also add your number to my phone and
Yeah.
keep you guys updated.
Yes. I've
Oh,
really been into that. I've really been into that texting community. Like, I've seen a lot of musicians doing that, and it's like I really like that because it's like, even if it, like, for me, when I do stuff like that, it's actually me, and it's a little bit more personal. But
yeah,
then yeah.
and it creates everything from just like I respond. I do my best to respond to everybody as much as I
Mm,
can. DMs.
mhm,
Um, it's a lot more difficult to like keep those organized, so
mhm.
it's stuff gets lost. And yeah, and so when people text me, it's a lot more
Yeah.
personal. It's a lot more personal for me too, because I can really like remember who you are.
Yeah. Y
And remember, like respond to your message because sometimes they just if we're in a long thread on DM, it can be hard.
yeah. And that's the issue I've been having recently. It's like 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 when we were messaging back and forth and you kept telling me to go to email, and it's like the issue you were having on Instagram is the issue I have on email.
Uh,
I miss so many things through email, and Instagram I'm a little bit better about staying on top of, but I also every once in a while be like, "Oh crap, who is that person that I was supposed to podcast with? I don't remember who it was." And
yeah,
it's because yeah, so it's it's always interesting. But the text messaging, a lot of people don't like it, like when I text back and forth with them, but it's like it's right here. It's on my phone. It's literally its own app, and I don't miss text messages.
yeah.
So
See, the reality is I actually suck at texting.
yeah,
I do my best. But in my defense, I've got so many platforms of people I'm trying to respond to.
Yeah.
Want to give everybody the equal attention, and
Yeah.
it's
For
tough.
sure. For sure. For sure. So kind of taking a step outside of music for a minute, before we kind of wrap this up, what are some of your hobbies? What do you do when you need to like step away from the stage or the mic and just kind of
Mhm.
decompress?
Yeah, I love to be outside. Any opportunity to be in fresh air, walking in the sunshine. So I oftentimes am like hiking or just literally like walking by the beach. I love to cook and bake. For me, that's
Mm.
like another creative therapy when I'm stressed out. I'll just get creative in the kitchen.
Nice.
Um, and yeah, I mean, obviously hanging out with friends and
Mm.
family, spending time with my dog Willow.
Nice.
But yeah.
Nice. Awesome. Awesome. Um, so one thing that we do before everybody or one thing that we do with everybody that comes on the podcast is a fun little game called That's So Random.
Okay.
I have a random question generator. Yep, I still have the generator. Um, and I'm going to just fire off 3 random questions,
Okay.
and we'll see where we're at the end of this.
Cool.
Do you wait? No, I'm not answering that. I'm not asking that question. That's um. What is something that you spare no expense with?
Ooh. Can you rephrase that question? It's confusing.
What is something that you spare no expense on? Yeah.
Some
What's that?
spend Does that like spend no money on?
No, spare no expense.
Like what does that mean?
Oh, like basically you'll spend as much money as you want on it.
Oh, okay.
So like something that no
Okay.
matter the price,
Uh-huh.
you have to have it a certain way.
Ooh. Hmm. That's actually really tough because I would say food, but at the same time, I'm not like I will spend money on food, but I
Mm.
also I have to know it's going to be worth it before I do that. um, so maybe shoes. I would say shoes.
Fair, very fair. Who would you choose to narrate your inner monologue?
Ooh. Mm. I don't know. I feel like only myself. I feel like I'd get so pissed off if somebody else was in my
That's fair, very fair. And then final question is, what's the last book you read?
The Alchemist.
Okay, how was it?
God, it's amazing. And if you guys haven't read The Alchemist, like you need to. Like it's really, really quick read and it is actually life changing.
Nice, awesome, awesome. Well, that was so random. Fun little quick game. So yeah. And so once again, I do want to thank you for jumping on and chatting. I'm glad we finally got this on the books, and it just kind of happened really quickly, which is great. I kind of like, I kind of psych myself out every once in a while when I know for a long time that I have a podcast coming up. But when
Yeah,
it's like, hey, I can do tomorrow, it's like, great, cool. Then I don't overthink the podcast. So,
right. Yeah.
um, but I
Um,
really appreciate you coming on and chatting with us. What's one piece of advice you want to send the young musicians home with out there?
um, I think again, it's just staying true to yourself and staying authentic. It's really, really difficult when there's a lot of noise out there and a lot of people that kind of make you feel like you've got to do it their way in order to succeed. I think at the end of the day, you have to remember that like who you are is who you are,
Mhm.
and it's that's what separates you. And so to lean into that, lean into your quirks, lean into your strengths,
Mhm.
even if this is, and go inward and figure out, spend the time to go inward.
Mhm.
Don't do that, and it's actually terrifying to think about.
Yeah.
Why don't take the time to look inward. So it definitely helps you better, figure out who you, again, like the type of people you're attracting, the type of opportunities, and it allows you to take advantage of them in a much more, I guess, advantageous way.
Mhm. Yeah, 100% agreed. 100% agreed.
Yeah, if
But
you want, like, how can you expect the universe to know what you want, you know?
mm, oh yeah, I get it. But once again, thank you so much for hanging out with us. It's been an absolute blast. What's the social media handles one more time for everybody?
Sure. Instagram's at Chloe Caroline, TikTok's at I'm Chloe Caroline, same with Twitter. Facebook's just Chloe Caroline Music, and same with YouTube.
Awesome, awesome. Well, once again, thank you all so much for hanging out with us. It's been an absolute blast. For anybody that's new listening, we do have the Hoedown Showdown every Saturday morning from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. You can find the stream on our website, liveandamplified.net. Any support you would love to give would be much appreciated. And until next time, we will see you all later. Cool. Awesome. We are good. Oh, wait, hold on. Stop recording. Yes, that's what I want to do.